Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and we've got the original crew back this week. Jason is back from a week off, so me and Joe don't have to carry the load again. Jason, it looked like it was a hell of a game, though, last Monday night with Reese's homecoming.
Yeah, it was so great. We'll talk about it a little bit when we get to the Phils, but good time at the game with Ron. I know he enjoyed it. We just definitely had a good time hanging out, and we got to see a win. Yeah, it was just a great time, and it was a good way to get closure and kind of say thank you and goodbye to Reese.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys got that. It's always tough to see a homegrown star leave as a free agent, and especially when in his walk year he was injured for the whole year, so you didn't get to see that. So I was really happy for you guys. I was also happy to see him hit a home run. I just wish he would have also won the game, but
see that to me that was the perfect situation. Phil's win while he homers. That's A-okay.
Not a surprise, is it, Joe?
No. And honestly, it's the best case scenario for Philly fans for sure.
It really was.
Yeah, I know. Cubs fans were like, "Come on, Milwaukee."
Best case scenario for the Cubs fans too.
This is the one time it would be okay if you guys win a game and you blew it. Good job.
I would not be rooting for Milwaukee.
I'm pretty sure Joe was thank you, Philly, for all three games there.
The only reason I was hoping Milwaukee might take one of those is literally just for the standings. I don't care. I hate Milwaukee and like watching them lose. So it really didn't bother me that much. All right. So, Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I've got the trifecta of Hard Mountain Dews again tonight. I've got watermelon first because I am really sour about the way my team is playing right now. Yeah. I've got the Baja Blast because the offense is on vacation. And I've got the OG because I just wish they would return to normal.
Amen to that. Good set.
And I've got the Batman t-shirt is because the Cubs need some superpower to get this shit back together because holy cow.
Well said, dude. Well said. What do you got, Jason?
Tonight I am going with the Raspberry Blue Trail, Raspberry Lemon and Blueberry Shandy from Lancaster Brewing Company. It's been a go-to over the last couple of weeks here because I got the 6-pack for it. So it's still crisp and refreshing. Absolutely delicious.
All right. And for me, I'm also rather sour with the turns of my team lately. So I'm going with, from New Trail Brewing, the Raspberry Sour because I had to find something that was somewhat summery. And I'm breaking out a mug that I just found. If you can see behind me, I have my new corner cabinet put in that I found on Facebook Marketplace for $50. Cleaned it up, put some new stain on it. Looks absolutely gorgeous. Holds everything so much better. And I found one of my old favorite mugs hiding in the old one. Instant genius, just add beer. Very appropriate for a podcast where we're drinking beer all night. All right, let's roll into it. Tonight, we'll start with the All Star Ballots. All Star Balloting is opening for those fans who are unaware of it. Get your votes in for your favorite player, your teams, or, if you're going to be a good fan, look at who's the most deserving, which is how we're all planning to vote. So we'll start it off. We'll go position by position. We will start at first base. I went with the American League. I went with Ryan Mountcastle, and in the National League, I went Freddie Freeman. How'd you go, Joe?
I went with Josh Naylor in the American League, and I went with Bryce Harper in the National League.
Yeah, right. I'm not surprised that Andrew went with Freddie Freeman, even though it's supposed to be most deserving.
I'm sorry. Does Bryce Harper have a better batting average than Freddie Freeman?
So you're looking at one stat.
I look at multiple.
So if you're going by just batting average, Ryan Mountcastle wouldn't even be in that.
I don't look at just batting average. I look at more than just the statistics they show you on MLB.com's ballots.
All right.
Well, I will tell you, I did pick a Philly in my ballot. I did, and I only picked one Brave this year too so far.
So I'm going for the American League. I was torn between Mountcastle and Vlad Jr. Based off of this, I am going to go with Ryan Mountcastle. He doesn't have as high of a batting average, but he does have more home runs. He has a few more RBI, just a couple more RBI, and he does have a higher OPS. And then for National League first baseman, I looked at Freddie, and then I looked at Harper, and the averages are only like 0.1013 apart, which is really close to me. But then you look at the power numbers, and Harper has 7 more home runs, 5 more RBI, and his OPS is absolutely ridiculous at a 920 OPS compared to 879 for Freddie. So, so for that, I would actually take Bryce Harper in this case.
And I think those are going to be the top 2 in the National League. I do. If it's not, I'm going to be very, very surprised by that. All right, moving it on, we have second base in the American League. As much as it pained me to go this way, I went with Jose Altuve. In the National League, I went Ketel Marte. What about you, Joe?
I went with Marcus Semien in the American League, and I went with Bryson Stott in the National League.
Okay. Jason?
I appreciate all the Philly love. From a defensive standpoint, I would definitely say Bryson should be in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that his numbers overall are there. So from the American League, let's see here. I am also going to actually take Jose Altuve. Numbers overall are just a little bit better than Marcus Semien.
Yeah, and that one was a coin toss for me between those two.
Yeah, and then in the National League, all of the numbers are screaming Ketel Marte for me there. So I'm going to go with Ketel Marte.
I think Stott will make it as a backup, though.
Yeah, I think had Luis Ariz been with San Diego from the beginning of the year, I think he ends up putting a stronger case together because he has the 331 batting average, but he only has 1 home run and 17 RBI. So
yeah, he's like Pete Rose. He can slap the ball anywhere and get hits all over the place, but he has no power to speak of.
Yeah,
so and that's always going to hurt him.
And same with Bryce Terang of the Brewers, 305 batting average, but only 3 home runs, 24 RBI, 787 OPS. So Ketel, aside from that average, everything else is there.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's move it on to third base. In the American League, I went Rafael Devers, and in the National League, here's my Philly, Jason. I went Alec Bohm. Although for me, that was close between Bohm and Arenado. How'd you go, Joe?
I went with Jose Ramirez in the American League, and then I went with Alec Bohm as well for third base in the National League.
Jason?
I am going to go with Joe. Who was your AL?
Ramirez, Jose Ramirez.
I'm with Joe on both of these. Jose Ramirez, 275 average, 18 home runs, 62 RBI, and an 890 OPS. And then Alec Bohm, the defense has been there. Couple rough games, but overall the defense is there. The 291 average with 6 home runs, 51 RBI, and the 815 OPS. I think Alec Bohm is going to end up getting that. And if it's not him, I think you're probably going to look at Ortiz of the Brewers.
Yeah, definite possibility there too. You're not wrong with Ramirez. He is having a great season. Devers' average is a little higher, and his OPS is also higher, even if he hasn't had complete pop. That's why I edged that way on that one. I don't think anyone's going to chase Bohm down at this point, short of an injury.
Yeah.
The rest of the National League third basemen have really not shown out this year the way he has. So.
No, definitely not.
All right, let's move it on to the shortstops. My shortstop in the American League, I went with Gunnar Henderson. And in the National League, I went with, what position am I playing today? Mookie Betts. How about you, Joe? What do you got?
I went Bobby Witt on the American League, and I went with my only Met, Francisco Lindor.
It is so hard for me to pick a Met in anything. What about you, Jason?
Is Mookie listed anywhere else, or is he only listed at shortstop?
He's only listed at shortstop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then yeah, Mookie's going to be my choice for the National League. 309, 10 home runs, 37 RBI, and a ridiculous 914 OPS. Frankie Lindor would be close for that. I also say Ellie De La Cruz, if his average and OPS were higher, I'd be strongly considering him.
Yeah.
From the American League side of things, Bobby Witt Jr. 3.8. I am torn between him and Gunnar Henderson, but Witt's over.
They're closer.
You
than
know, you know what? I'm gonna actually go with Gunnar on this one. The average isn't nearly as high as Bobby Witt, but everything else is absolutely insane.
Do you know what put me over for Gunnar over Bobby Witt, though? It was how many times we've talked about the Orioles this year and Gunnar providing that key hit late when the Orioles needed it the most. It's just an intangible to me in this case.
Yeah.
Jason, as far as Mookie goes this year, 59 games at shortstop, 16 at second base. So that's where he's supposed to be.
Okay.
For the first time in his career, he's actually positioned correctly on the ballot. I know. All right, catchers, American League, Adley Rutschman for me. National League, Will Smith of the Dodgers. Joseph.
Adley and William Contreras.
Adley and William Contreras.
I was close on that one. I thought I'd get another homer pick. Oh, God, Andrew.
The other thing to look at here, I agree that it should be Adley. Salvi Perez is probably going to end up making a run at it.
Yeah. At 299, right?
298, 10, 42, 859 OPS.
That's a good
season. Everything's pretty close there, but Adley does have the edge with that.
One thing, can I just mention one thing that I don't like about how MLB shows the ballots every year? They have, for Atlanta's catcher, they have Sean Murphy listed because he's top on the depth chart. I hate it when they leave it at depth chart when they don't take into account injuries and the fact that d'Arnaud has played most of the catching so far for Atlanta. It's just something that's driven me nuts for a couple years now, but really this year it makes no sense to have Murphy anywhere near an all-star ballot.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it on to the outfielders. The first one I think is probably going to be unanimous. American League, all rise for Aaron Judge. The second one, I went away from the power guys. I went with Steve Kwan with his 370 average. I know he doesn't have a ton of power, but with the 955 OPS, I know he hasn't played the whole season with some injuries, but I think he's deserving at this point. And then I went Kyle Tucker. I went back to the Astros. He's almost up to 20 homers, 40 RBIs. In the National League, I went with Cody Bellinger. I went with Jurickson Profar, who I'm shocked is having the season that he's having. And I also went Christian Yelich as well. Nice to see Yelich having a little bit of a resurgence. He's had some down years. So that was my picks for the outfielders, American and National.
Andrew, could say your National League ones again? I was looking through the list.
Cody Bellinger, Jurickson Profar, Christian Yelich.
Have you been watching the same Cody Bellinger I have this year?
I have. Dude, National League outfield is not great this year. Acuna's done and wasn't hitting that well. There's no real runaway candidates in the National League, and especially moving Mookie into the infield doesn't help because that was an automatic spot in the outfield. National League outfielder was harder to pick this year than I think it's ever been.
Yeah.
What's your three? What's your six, Joe?
So you were right about Judge. I had Kyle Tucker, and I also had Taylor Ward in the American League. In the National League, I had my only homer pick of this was Ian Happ, Profar, and Brian Reynolds. Those are my other outfielders.
Yeah, I don't disagree with those picks either.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as a Cub, I figured I'd pick one of the Cub guys, but to me, Happ has been the most deserving from a defensive and a more consistent offense perspective. Plus, Cody was hurt for a while.
Yeah. Jason?
I 100% Aaron Judge. Also agree with Kyle Tucker. The other name that I'm going to throw in here, I think my third one is Tyler O'Neill of the Boston Red Sox. Not a great average, only a 250 average, 11 home runs, 18 RBI, and an 854 OPS. That third one was a little more difficult to pick. And then for the National League, Jerickson Profar, Christian Yelich, and I hate that I'm doing this, but Fernando Tatis Jr.
I can't.
I
if he's not blowing me away, I can't.
I'm just looking at the options out there, and
it's bad.
And
it's bad.
I took a look at Nick Castellanos, but his offensive numbers aren't there. Like that, I can't.
Is great. Outfield is not a position for the All-Star game where you can ever pick defense as the reason to put a guy in, unless it's these two guys are the same. Who's got the better defense to give him the edge? You just can't.
Like if Brandon Marsh was hitting lefties better, I think he would have a strong case.
I looked at the Phillies outfielders. I looked at it's you would think, but no, they're not there.
No. So I by default 281, 12, 34, 826 OPS.
It's the numbers are deserving. I just can't. Oh man, freaking outfielders. All right, let's move it on to DH. In the American League, I went Yordan Alvarez. In the National League, I picked my one and only offensive Atlanta Brave with Marcell Ozuna. Joe?
In the American League, I went with Brent Rooker from the Oakland A's. And you know what? I had a National League pick, but I feel like changing it. Let me come back to that one. Jason?
You're good.
Go ahead, Jason.
Looking at these numbers, again, this one's a little more difficult to pick. Some of these are, again, for American League, I'm not overly thrilled with a few of these. I'm torn between Yordan, Carpenter of the Tigers, 283, 829, 914 OPS. And even like Ryan O'Hearn, 283, 923, 826, and Rooker, 270, 1340. Because his numbers are a little higher, I'm going to go with Brent Rooker from the A's for the National League.
That's fair.
And then
American League,
yeah. And then for the National League, do I use? I have to. As much as I hate it, Marcell Ozuna. As much as I hate it,
you want to gamble on Ohtani, but you can't. I'm sorry, that was that's a joke, right?
The numbers are there. I think Ohtani's going to get it either way. But considering we're voting for, like, essentially who's most deserving of the start, it's Ozuna.
What do you think, Joe?
Given the baggage that comes with Ozuna, I can't do it. I'm not going to compromise on that. I'm going to go with Jock Peterson.
Yeah, no arguments there. He's having a hell of a year. All right. So that's the Dollar Dogs and Podcast. That's our picks for our All Star ballots.
I have a question here, a follow up,
Yeah.
because I know we don't get to vote for them. Who are your starting pitchers?
I was about to go there too. For me, I think the starter is going to be Ranger, and I think it should be. I think he's absolutely deserving. I think this is where you're actually going to see some Atlanta players make it. I think Chris Sale is a strong possibility. I think Ronaldo Lopez is going to be a strong possibility. It's the top. I have to say, the top of the pitching in the National League actually gives me some hope this year that we might finally manage to see the NL win a damn All-Star game for once. Wheeler and Noah will definitely get consideration with Ranger, as they should. I mean, you could almost make the pitching staff just from Philadelphia and Atlanta. That's how strong our pitching staffs are. Joe, I really wish I could say Justin Steele, but he was hurt for so long, man. It's
No, that's not where I was going with that.
It's going to be Shota.
No, Shota's going to go, but you almost had a great two-headed monster coming out if Steele hadn't gotten hurt early on, which sucks.
Don't get me started, okay?
I know. Yeah, but Shota should absolutely make it. I hadn't heard that Ranger was pitching again. I guess I never got the health update from last week.
He started and won his 10th. He won his 10th game in Saturday in the London series, so he didn't miss a start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
He went.
That's the one I couldn't remember.
6 2/3, 7, something like that.
Yeah.
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 He looked like Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking over in the American League, Tanner Houck and Tariq Skubal are probably going to be the two most likely to get the starting role. Corbin Burns should be up there as well, making my fantasy team somewhat palpable lately. I'm trying to think who else. The Angels will need an obligatory rep, so they might tap Tyler Anderson for that.
You have potential for a Logan O'Hoppe, the catcher, to make it in there.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I'm just looking down the stats here. Gavin Stone's probably going to make it too.
I think it's going to be Skubal.
Yeah.
It might be Seth Lugo.
That's the other one who may get some consideration is Seth Lugo. He's been absolutely dynamite.
Yeah, Seth Lugo's 9-1 with the 2.28 ERA right now. If he's not considered, I'll be shocked. He might not be because he's not a high strikeout guy, and we all know Velo sells. In which case, I think it'll be Luis Gil out of the Yankees, 8-1, 204, 90 strikeouts over 75, .93 WHIP, and a 137 average against. I think that's probably the most likely. I know ERA is not everything and it's often overlooked, but ERA plus numbers. I will be. Yeah, I think probably Lugo, Gil, and Skubal are probably the most likely three for the American League.
I think we're gonna have to definitely wait and see who pitches when leading up to the break, because that's gonna have an effect as well.
Yeah, it always does,
and it's always, of course, up to the managers to decide their starters. But if they're available, I'm thinking I would lean Skubal and maybe Gil, and then Ranger on the national side. I feel like the National League side is pretty much taken care of, barring something.
Yeah. Ranger's the first 10-win pitcher of the league this year. 181 leads the league's ERA by a pretty good distance in the National League. Skubal does have a 192 in the American League. The only, actually, to be honest, the Atlanta pitcher that might have a chance of catching Ranger would be Sale, but with a 3.01 ERA, I don't see it. Although he has the 8-2 record. But yeah, if it's not Ranger, it's going to be a health or he just pitched. It's his to lose at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems to me like that would be Ranger or Imanaga, depending on who's not pitching.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't be shocked. Would not be shocked in the slightest. All right, so that's our all-star thoughts so far. So let's move it on down on the farm. Jason, take it away.
Down on the farm. All right, we have a lot to cover here with Down on the Farm, but we'll make it not as long. So the hitter this week is Jonathan Rodriguez from the Columbus Clippers, the AAA affiliate for the Cleveland Guardians. This was an absolutely monster week for Rodriguez. 14 for 31, which is a 451 average, 5 multi-hit games out of 7. And the other 2, he went over. So whenever he got a hit, he had multiple hits. 4 doubles, 4 home runs, 16 RBI, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. On June 6th, he had a 3-homer, 9 RBI game, going 3 for 7 against Indianapolis.
That's nuts.
Right? Like,
what level is this kid playing at?
AAA.
That's
So
AAA.
yeah, so he's coming.
Yeah.
And then the pitcher this week was Tommy Romero from the Sacramento River Cats, the AAA affiliate for the Giants. He got 2 games started in here, which kind of put him over the edge. I was looking at a Fight and Phil this week, who went 1-0 with only 2 hits in 7 innings. But Tommy Romero for the Sacramento River Cats, 2 games started, 1-0, 0 ERA, 11 and 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, no earned runs, 4 walks, and 10 strikeouts.
Yeah, good numbers.
So those are good there. And then some other news here. So our local team, the Lancaster Barnstormers of the Independent League, the Atlantic League, they were sitting at 10-18. They were like 8+ games back. Well, they have won a franchise record 13 in a row. They are now 23-18, and they are now only 2 games behind York for first in the division.
Nice.
So they are on fire, which means it's only a matter of time, and it kind of already started. Today with a player getting signed by the Twins, but it's a feeder league, so some players will probably soon be on the move.
Yeah. And you'll see that with York and the other top teams in the Atlantic League too. It's not just going to be the Barnstormers. Don't worry, fans. And do they play York again in the first half, or are they done already?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, because it just sucks that they're chasing York, and the last bad series before the hot streak was York, where they think they dropped 3 or 4. So let's hope the tiebreaker doesn't bite them if it comes to that.
Yeah, they have done terribly against York this year so far. And then not baseball news, but really big softball news. NCAA Women's College World Series, Oklahoma Sooners, they accomplished something that's never been done in NCAA softball history. They 4-peated as national champs with an 8-4 win over Texas. I found some amazing stats on this, you guys. So this was the 8th title for head coach Patty Gasso. They have, and this is going to be insane. Like, I cannot wait to see your reactions. They have won 6 of the last 8 NCAA titles. They have made 10 of the last 13 finals. They had over a 70-game win streak from 2023 through 2024.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know if you're ready for this. I'm glad you're sitting down. Over the last 4 seasons, they have a 235-15 record.
Oh, damn!
They have outscored their opponents 2,236 to 370 for a plus 1,866 run differential.
Oh God, that's hideous!
Wow.
It has been almost 1,900 days since a team not named Oklahoma won the NCAA softball championship.
Man, that's
wild, man.
Plus 1866.
That's a lot.
So putting together the pantheon of college goats. I think women's softball. I think we have it right here and now with Oklahoma softball, basketball. It's always the debate between Coach K's Blue Devils and any of the UCLA teams from way back when. Let's see, wrestling right now, it's Penn State. Football, basically Alabama over the last decade. It's nice to see the women's sports getting more recognition. Like ESPN has been going nuts with the softball coverage of this year, and it's been great. This is so awesome to see.
I also just figured it out. That is a 940 winning percentage.
Jesus.
Absolutely nuts.
If there was ever a definition for dynasty, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Seriously.
That's wild, man. Well, congratulations to Oklahoma. That's just awesome to see. Good for them.
And that's all we have for Down on the Farm. I had to end with all of that information and all those stats. That was just awesome.
That's the definition of big time stats right there. All right, let's move it on to a horrible week in fantasy because I was literally too busy all last week to do anything beside anything that was not checking my fantasy roster. As Tim absolutely whooped my ass last week, 18-6. Joe, big week over Ronnie, beating him 18-9. And Jason, thankfully, you put a nice little beat down on Todd so he could not overtake me. It was a 16-7 victory. The standings are as follows. I'm still clinging to the lead. Tim jumped all the way up to second, now 10.5 games back. Joe, you are still sitting at third at 11 back. Jason, you have moved up into fourth place at 15.5 back. Todd has dropped down to 16.5 back, and Ronnie is sitting 30.5 back and looking like he will be missing the playoffs at this point, bearing one hell of a second half comeback, which I won't put it past him, but we might put it past him. Oh, man, that was a rough week. Oh, well.
I know. Joe and I didn't really mind it.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think you would. And if I'm not mistaken, this week is the Jason Joe clash.
It sure is. It sure is.
Great.
Can't wait for the cannibalism to occur.
So far.
I'll say we're what, 1-1, Joe?
Yeah, 1-1 this year.
So
well, that's better than last year for me.
Yeah, the early season rubber matches
like
this week, and
1-4, 1-5 against you last year,
something like that.
You sucked against some pretty bad last year.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
All right, so all right, so we're going to move into with the awesome success of the of what you guys did when I was gone, where it was just a completely open show, lots of fan questions. Something else I want to add next time we do that, and anybody watching, if you go to a baseball game, I don't care if it's major league, minor league, snap some pictures, send them over to us. We won't be doing this every week, but we're going to have a set called Pictures from Around the League from fans that have been going to the games. It's always fun to show off those pictures. So here we go. All right, let's see. All right, so we're going to start up in Boston for the Red Sox Brave series. Friend of the show, Damian Breton, was at Fenway Park and snapped some pictures for all of us to see. And he was actually there for the game that Chris Sale had his first game back as a member of the Braves after being with the Red Sox. Which, boy, that trade is looking worse and worse for the Red Sox when you consider that they're paying $17 million of his salary this year, and we're paying $500,000. That's a beautiful old park. Nice panoramic shot.
Solid seats.
Yeah, he didn't give me the context of when the video was. He got some nice action shots. He was really close to getting the home run Ozzie Albies hit. He was really close to getting a picture of the contact with the ball. He just missed that. He was just a little early. So, You got the video though.
You got a video of it.
Yeah, the classic Fenway. You're sitting behind a pole shot. I always love it when the people poke their head out from the scoreboard in between innings and whatnot. I've always thought that was funny. Or when Manny would go in there to use the bathroom in between or in the middle of innings sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then this is from Joe's trip up to Reading for the Fightin' Phils last week. That's a nice ballpark.
Yeah,
Nice
it really
job.
is, and that event center in center field there, that's
Mhm.
new.
Mm-hmm.
Where they can host, gatherings and stuff. What I understand or what I was told is that they're going to put bullpens, like they might raise the video board and put bullpens underneath it.
Oh, that'd be cool.
One level is one team, bottom level is the other, something like that.
Nice.
So
They're
really
currently just down the lines, aren't they?
Yeah, they're currently just down the lines, and it sounds like they're going to try to centralize that behind the fence.
That's smart.
And I think that the locker rooms are going to be in the bottom level of that center field space too. So get them
Okay.
out from underneath the concourse.
Awesome. All right, and then from Jason and Ron's trip to Philadelphia, this picture Ron snapped in black and white is just gorgeous. I love it.
Yeah.
Here's the moment.
You could really see that he was getting emotional. I know he thought that he was going to be booed. No,
dude. No,
like
the Phillies over in enough games, yeah, they will, but it's going to take a lot for that to happen.
And you'll see he puts his helmet on after this. He looks down and he just like sighs and shakes his head because you can just see that emotion.
Yeah.
Jamie, his wife, was there. So they showed her. She was a big part of the community too.
Mm-hmm.
Like in their World Series run, in the World Series run, she went back and she was just buying beers for everybody.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, I believe that was the last one. So that is our first ever pictures from around the league. Great pictures, you guys. Those were awesome. I'm glad you got the video for Reese. That was that goosebumps, man.
Everybody was on their feet before he even started walking to the plate because they knew it was his time.
Yeah. And can we say props to the umpires for reading the room, realizing the moment, and turning the damn clock off and letting the moment happen?
Yeah, and I'm guessing Philly put in to have it. I'm thinking they submitted to make sure that they had that stopped.
Absolutely.
They would have been nuts not to.
The fact they have to
all right.
request it
So
is
speaking, what it is, come on. Anytime something like if you hear the crowd like that, just use your own initiative and say, "Let's let the moment be." It's like when you listen to old broadcasts, when the broadcasters knew when a big moment happens, let it be silent air for a while. Just let people sink in and realize the moment. You don't need to talk during the moment. Just let it happen. That's one of those times. All right. So since we're talking about Philly, Jason, do you want to start with Reese or do you want to start in the London series? I don't care which way you want to go with that.
Okay, I'll just kind of do a general Philly recap because it does involve a little bit of both. So the Phils had a fantastic week. Probably could have or should have gone 5-0 on the week, but we will gladly take a 4-1 week anytime it happens. They started by sweeping the Brewers and spoiling Rhys Hoskins' return to Philadelphia, much to the delight of the Cubs fans that I know and the Pirates fans that I know. 3-1, 2-1 in 10 innings, 2-0. And the big thing here was on Monday, it was the return of Rhys Hoskins, first time since he first time back after signing his 2-year deal with Milwaukee. And the reception was absolutely amazing. It was the crowd gave him, I think it was like 3 to 4 standing ovations throughout the night. Once during warm-ups, when he came out, and then another one when they announced the lineups, and then another one as well when he got announced for the first at bat. And best story of all, the Phils won the game. Hoskins hit a home run off Zach Wheeler later in the game. So that one was a little bit of a mixed reaction. It was cheers with some boos mixed in. But Philly, ever being Philly, after his ovation in the for his first at bat, everybody starts settling down. It's like, all right, strike him out. So,
yep, that's very Philly.
But it was actually really funny to see. At one point, Reese walked on against Zach Wheeler, and then he stole second base off of JT Realmuto. And you can tell that during pregame or like during some meetings beforehand, Reese was like telling JT, "I'm gonna get one off of you," because he was like 3/4 of the way to second before JT even had the ball. Like there was no chance that Realmuto was throwing him out. Like even if there weren't like extra big bases, But Reese slides into second and immediately takes his helmet off and just turns and stares in at Realmuto, smiling. And you see JT just like grinning and shaking his head. And then, sure enough, the very next batter, base hit to center field. Reese tries to score, but Rojas throws a perfect throw to ball to JT, who tags him out and gets up and pats him on the butt as he comes back to the dugout. and Reese reaches up and pats him as well. And both of them are just cracking up and smiling. Like it was one of those, it was like, these guys are still close. They're playing against each other, but it's a game. And it truly became that backyard game in that moment. And it was absolutely fantastic to see their reactions.
There's two kinds of exits from a team. There's the guy that's been there for a long time that just leaves because they couldn't come to an agreement on the contract, and they're always going to be warmly welcomed when they go back. And then there's the guy that gets cut, gets spiteful, and screws their old team over at every opportunity. It's nice to see Reese is on the former side of that rather than the latter side of that.
I mean, and he's still Philadelphia at heart with his interactions with the Mets. So, but I mean, and the other thing here with Reese was he left on good terms. The Phils didn't offer him a contract. It's not like he said, "I'm going here because there will be more money." Like he wanted to stay in Philadelphia, and I fully expect that he will one day retire as a Philly.
Even if it's a one-day deal. Yeah,
I mean, and his playoffs in 2022, the bat spike, the key hits, that truly finally endeared him to Philadelphia fans. Philly fans appreciated him before then. He became a legend in Philly with the bat spike.
Yep.
And like I know I was giving him hard times like in our chats, like, oh my God, I hate Reese. Reese sucks. But like he was truly the heart and the leader of that team in 2022.
That might be the PG version of what you said about Reese in the chat.
Yeah, pretty much.
I see we have some people watching, so I figured I'd keep it a little PG. But so that was a great start to the week. And then the Phils had off a couple days. They got to go to London for the London series, which was a lot of fun to watch on TV. The reactions, like the crowd, you had 60,000 people there for each game. the really cool thing, at least from my perspective, was the fact that it was like a 70% to 30% Phillies fans to Mets fans ratio. The Phillies fans traveled well. There's a lot of Philly fans over in England, and Bryce Harper was even like trying to pander to them a little bit. He knows how to play to the fans, saying, "Hey, like come on our wagon. Love to have you." But the first game of the London series, the Phils won 7-2. You had some big home runs there. Bryce Harper with the first home run of the London series, which was pretty awesome, especially considering he rounded the bases, and when he came towards the dugout, he did the soccer goal slide on the knees, just yelling goal, and he said he had been planning that for as long as he can remember, for whenever they came to London, if he hit a home run. Both teams seem to just enjoy themselves and have fun with the game, being over there. The Mets did hit the Phillies bullpen hard in game 2 on Sunday. They ended up winning 6-5. It was one where Phils had a 3-0 lead. Taijuan Walker actually pitched well for once, but Gregory Soto, for some reason, keeps getting put into the game in high leverage situations, and he gave up the 3 runs. 2 of them were charged to Walker, I believe. At least one was, but he let those inherited runners score. And then Phils took a lead with David Dahl hitting a home run. But Jose Alvarado, who I like to call wildly effective, was wildly ineffective. Walking 2, giving up 2 hits. He gave up the tying run on a base hit dribbler down to third base, and then he hit Pete Alonso with the bases loaded to bring in another run, and then a pass ball caused the second run to come in, and the Phils got one in the 9th, but it was just too little too late. So, but after all that, the Phils still have the best record in baseball at 45-20, and they are 9 games up on Atlanta in the division. So it was a good week.
That's a hell of a double play the Mets turned to win that game in the 9th.
It was a really soft. It was a broken bat swinging bunt out in front of the plate by Castellanos that the catcher just turned around, was able to have the mindset to step on home and throw to first. He threw a great strike over to first base to snag him. That's one that I think you see some catchers will actually throw away, allowing runs to score. And I think,
especially with the base path restrictions being loosened.
Yeah, and I think a big reason for that being a double play is the fact you also have Castellanos trying to run down to first, and it's not like Johan Rojas or somebody with any kind of speed running down to first base.
Rojas, you tag home, and you toss the ball back to the pitcher.
Right. So it's one of those where they let that one get away, which is really unfortunate. But at the end of the day, you take a split at a neutral site any day of the week, regardless of who it's against, and you take a 4-1 week whenever they happen.
It's fitting that both games ended on a double play.
Yeah. That first, and both were with bases loaded too.
Yeah.
Because the Mets had the bases loaded in the first game, and then a weak ground ball to Stott, who stepped on second and threw to first. Yeah.
That is what struck me the most about this. The other thing that struck me about this is we had to suffer through Michael Kay, and the English announcer was freaking fantastic.
Oh, he was amazing
on that double play ball. Like,
yeah.
Just one question. I was reading, and of course, this was 98% coming from Mets fans. Did you think the slide at the end of the game at home plate was a dirty slide?
I think it was unnecessary, if anything. I mean, the guy was clearly out by probably 3-4
he didn't need to slide because he had no chance of taking the bag.
Yeah, I mean, all I don't know if it was Nito or Narvaez. I don't know who was catching, but all they have to do is step on the plate and the ball's right there. So there's really no need to slide. It was certainly unnecessary. Could you consider it dirty because it was unnecessary? I guess. But yeah, there it and everybody's gonna cry about something.
Yeah, I was just reading it after the game. I watched the replay. It was a late slide. He did catch the ankle. Was it dirty? Maybe. It's two division teams too. I mean, division
Yeah.
teams are always scrappy.
Dirty is the one. Dirty is the one that I just don't. To me, I have no way of knowing if it's dirty. To me, the easiest way to classify it is unnecessary, and yeah, maybe potentially dirty, but unnecessary at most.
Yeah. Yeah,
For sure.
I think dirty was a step too far.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's so from what I was reading too from player interviews, the players loved the weekend. The fan turnout was great. The energy was definitely palpable. One common thread I saw from both Phillies and Mets players, they both wished one that there was less time off leading into the game, and two that more teams went over to maybe do like a pseudo tournament or something like that. I think a tournament would be a little tough to do, but I wouldn't mind them doing like a week's worth of London series in a row, but maybe do 3-game series instead of these 2-game series.
It definitely should be at least 3 games to me. And one of the things that Ronnie and I see this a lot, obviously lately with the WWE, is that they have right now they had an event in Saudi Arabia, they had one in France, they have one in Scotland this weekend, they have one in Germany coming up. Like, do this more than once a year. If you're just going to do 2 games, do it more than once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, the fans turn out for this stuff.
Yeah,
and based
if you
on
want to grow the game internationally, have more
right,
games.
and based on one of the stories we talked about before, one of my bring out the goods was that field in France.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to grow the game, there's a way to grow it. And MLB has consistently done a good job with these kind of one-off specialties. Maybe make it more often.
Yeah, I would definitely not be upset to see 1 a 3-game series and 2 or 3 series. I mean, they can even do what the NFL did and play games at different stadiums. It's not like there is a shortage of available stadiums in the British Isles if we're going to start there. So
right.
Yeah, good job, MLB. Let's hope let's keep it at rivalries too, because that always adds a little extra spice to it. All right, Joe, who needs to read the room this week?
Well, we kind of circling back on something we brought up before about the in-game interviews. We saw that come to a head this past week where a key error was made in the field because the guy was being interviewed during the game. Can we please just stop this nonsense? Please. It's unnecessary. It takes away from the product. It takes away from the casual baseball fan who wants to just watch the game happen. And it's ridiculous. Can we please just stop it? Because now you're costing people, you're costing outs, you're costing runs, you're costing games at this point. Like, can we please just knock it off with this in-game interview crap? Please.
Yeah.
It's
bad
enough. It's bad enough that we got to suffer through Michael K for the freaking Phillies Mets game on Sunday. Like, we got to deal with this bullcrap interviews during the game. It's asinine. It takes away from it.
Yeah, do it during the All Star game. That's the time to do it. Don't need it in the regular season. Also, one special read the room. I saw somebody had shown a picture of a Phillies fan wearing a UK blew a 13 colony lead, but I noticed that, as Joe astutely pointed out, that shirt, which was originally made by Obvious Shirts out of Chicago, was stolen by a local shirt company in Philadelphia with their own logo on the sleeve. Knock it off. Copyright exists for a reason. Stop stealing other people's good ideas.
Seriously, like I'm tired of that crap too.
I didn't see the logo. Was it Philly Goat?
I'd have to pull the picture up and zoom in to tell you for sure, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't do
it's
it.
just one of those things where like it's a great idea, sure, it's a funny shirt, but at the same time, stop passing it off as your own idea, please.
Mhm. And especially because Joe from Mobby Shirts, because he donates so much of his money and keeps it locally. Support the good businesses like that. Don't screw them over, please. All right, let's move it on from there. We're going to talk about the City Connect next. So, just today we had the Twin City Connect release. We'll talk about them first, along with Baltimore's god awful ad patch, which I don't really feel like getting into because it's ugly as hell and it makes me sad. And they're really just not making that much money on these ad patches anyway. So, the whole idea with Minnesota is it was a twofold. They wanted to show a quote unquote a ripple effect because of Minnesota being the land of 10,000 lakes, and they also made it more of a state connect jersey as opposed to a city connect, kind of like what the Rockies did with the license plate theme design that they did a couple years
Right,
ago.
like the ski pass and stuff like that. Yeah,
Exactly. So this I kind of like these guys. The rippling is actually going to be able to be seen more than a couple feet away. I don't think you're going to see it quite from the stands. The cap's solid. I love the Minnesota State logo with the star on the Twin Cities. The blue and the yellow looks really nice. It's a little bit brewerish, but I think it looks nice. And being that they're in an opposite league, I don't think that's as big of a deal as it might be. Like if a National League Central team had done that, that wasn't the Brewers.
yeah.
So let's see here. Underneath the brim on this side, they have the ripples of water on the bottom. So again, you wouldn't see that unless you had the hat. It's the MN on the front with the star between the M and the N. Blue pants, a bright yellow belt. Something that's really nice. The numbers on the back are extremely readable along with the name. You're not going to have any trouble figuring out who is who in the field. The sleeve patch features a loon flying over with lake ripples behind it. And the piping on the sleeves is a yellow, white, navy, which again, I think looks nice and ties it all together very well. Players that go high cuff, the socks have yellow on the bottom, and then it's the dark navy with some lighter blue striping on top. Those are the stance socks. I like this set. I wish it was white pants, but it's a solid set, and it actually looks like a uniform. You can from a distance, you can identify what team it is. You can identify who the player is. And they look pretty good. And the sublimated ripples, I don't know that you're going to see it on TV. I think it's probably a little too subtle for that, but you're going to see it from more than 6 feet away when you're looking at a player. Honestly, solid set. Well done. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I like them. I'm not surprised. You're one that like anytime a team has pants that aren't white, you're like, I wish they were white pants.
I don't like baseball in mono unless it's the road grays. I just don't.
But I think the other thing here that we kind of need to remember, you mentioned how it's a state connect instead of city connect. That's why Colorado also says if you look at their team name, it's the Colorado Rockies, not the Denver Rockies, and the Minnesota Twins. So they are playing to their primary fan base.
And remember, Minnesota did it first. They were the first ever baseball team to identify as a state.
Yeah, but my point is that's the reason why I think you're seeing the Rockies and the Twins having more of a statewide thing. It's because their identity is the state, not just a city. Whereas you have Chicago going with Wrigleyville, Philly having theirs, Atlanta with the A. It's because they do identify with a city, but these teams that identify with the state, they can make them state connect in order to really make sure they get their full fan base in there.
Yeah. It was. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
No, it's solid. Like it's crisp. There's enough contrast with the yellow on the belt to separate the. I know that the pant thing is your thing, but like And normally sometimes it can bother me too, but this is pretty good. Like the difference is enough, I think, between the two, where it's not so blended in like Wrigleyville or something like that.
Yeah, that
Um,
was great.
this is a really solid set. They did a fantastic job with this. Um, they every part of this they hit the nail on the head with it. Really.
Yeah, it really is a good set. I think they're going to wear them. I think they said 11 times this year. So
Yeah, this Friday and another 10 Fridays throughout the year at home.
yep.
It's usually a Friday home uniform is what they end up turning into,
Yeah,
for the most part. So I mean, it's a really neat set, and I love the connection to the state as opposed to, like Jason said, they can't really identify with the city because they're kind of not really a city team. So
well, and
I
I
thought
read
they really did a great job with connecting with everything that's Minnesota.
And I read something interesting earlier today. I can't remember where I read it, but Minnesota kind of released a City Connect last year when they brought when they brought those new Twin City uniforms out. So it's kind of like they had a soft City Connect release last year and then decided to go State Connect because they already have a City Connect, which honestly looks really good.
Yeah,
So yeah,
both uniforms for the Twins, they've hit home runs the last 2 years here.
mhm.
That whole new set rollout last year, and then with this one, they really did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
It's fun to see this on the field and fun to watch it, for sure.
All right, and then with the Dodgers, they are still not officially released. Everybody's pretty sure that we know what these leaks are probably going to be accurate, but we'll kick it off until I think next week is the official release for the Dodgers, if I remember right. So we'll talk about it next week. I'll kick that one to the future.
Yeah.
All Star patches did leak as well. State of Texas and on the patch with All Star game on it. So those are already out, and I believe you can buy the Team All Star caps already. I believe they're now available
Yeah.
in New if you
The
are
hats you can buy. The hats are out now.
okay.
It looks. I mean, those logos are pretty sharp too. I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be in Texas. I mean, if I would have been shocked if it had anything other than the state logo on there. It's Texas.
Yeah. Should have been a cowboy hat. I think it's a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, really. Yeah, Jerry Jones might have said something, but who cares?
Yeah.
All right. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about cosmic baseball in the minor leagues. Video was released showing the stadium transformation I wanted to share. So let me pop that up here. This is pretty cool, guys.
We're going to count down from 3. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah. The uniforms look great. I love everybody with the bright colors. I gotta say, I am pleasantly surprised they did such a good job of getting the black light strong enough that you can see it all throughout the state in that black light highlighter effect. That's wild. And I know, I remember from when we shared it before, they went through several lighting design companies before they figured out a way to get the black light strong enough to make the effect shown on the field. Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
I just want to know how much acid was done to come up with this idea.
Well, the funny thing about that, it all stemmed, if you'll recall, they had a glow stick night for the fans. Like it was a one-off promotion, and the owner was like, I wonder if we can make this everywhere. And damn it, he pulled it off. I know they had like fluorescent bats, and the ball was, they shaded the ball, I think, a little bit yellow to help it pop a little so the hitters could see it better. All right, so that was Cosmic Baseball. We'll roll it on to the Oakland A's and the continued nonsense coming out of the Oakland A's ownership. Let's set the table here. The A's, they still don't have funding for their new Las Vegas ballpark, and they're already negotiating to play games away from Vegas after they move there. The team wants up to 8 games post relocation to be played in other cities every season to help promote their brand. Jason,
this is a shit show. This is a mess.
I can only just say, like, it's the Athletics being the Athletics. Like, it's ownership being A's ownership. I just, this team is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, at this point, I'm like, you know what? Just fold the team.
Yeah. Fold the team and then bring it back under new ownership in a couple of years.
Good grief. Like, this is just embarrassing anymore.
Like, if you want to do this the season you're playing in Sacramento while the stadium's being built, that's the time to do it.
Yeah.
That's the time to do it. When the Vikings were building their new stadium and they were playing at University of Minnesota, they signed up to take games over in London. They signed up to play those neutral site games because they didn't have their stadium yet. That's when you do it, when you're building the stadium. You don't do it after the new stadium's built that you're going to bilk the taxpayers out of a huge tax bill for. And then
this is
the audacity to do it before you have the funding in place. Like, if I'm a voting member in Las Vegas, I'm voting no for every funding bill. Because if the team doesn't want to play all 81 home games at the stadium that I'm funding, no. Like, we're not talking about a one-off game in Mexico. We're not talking about a one-off game in London. They want to give up 8 home games. Screw you.
That's giving up thousands of dollars, and that's just freaking stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, this is embarrassing for the game. It truly is. The fact that, and what's disappointing about all of this is that the fans are innocent victims in all this nonsense in Oakland, and the team is not as bad as we thought they would be.
No.
They've had shades of brilliance this year. Like, Mason Miller has been amazing, and Brent Rooker has been phenomenal hitting, and this is how you repay the fans. This is garbage.
They are 4 games under 500. 4. This is not the team last year that we were taking bets as to whether they were going to pass 120 losses. This is a decent team.
I mean, up until the Astros' recent turnaround, the A's were playing a hell of a lot better than they were. This is ridiculous. It tarnishes a franchise. It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. What they should do is they should make this team an expansion team and bring the A's back at another point with the next round of expansion teams they want to add.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you just gotta change things because this is just dumb.
Yeah, it's a slap in the face to the fans in Oakland. It's a slap in the face to the fans in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
Yeah, it's just garbage. This is really pathetic, and it makes the organization look just god awful.
Yep.
For as much good publicity as the movie Moneyball got them, this cancels that out entirely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous.
Worst run franchise in baseball right now, and I don't think there can be any team arguing against that at this point. Not even the White Sox, Joe.
Check out Cubs Twitter. They beg to differ. That is a dark, dark place right now.
That's fair. Well, Twitter's a dark, dark place right now. All right. So the next one, Jason shared this back in the group chat. pick a player you dislike the most, but they have to be from your team. And I'm assuming, Jason, we can look at like the entire. It doesn't have to be the current roster, right? This can go back.
So the official thing was name the player that you hate the most on your favorite team within your lifetime.
Okay, I already got that one.
Oh, jeez.
All right, Jason, it's your topic. Take it away.
Odubel Herrera, easily. I mean, we know how I feel about Marcelo Zuna with his domestic violence history. Odubel had that as well, and he was even terrible to begin with, and the Phillies still somehow brought him back. But the guy never hustled out. He typically would misplay a ball in outfield, in center field of all places, where you need to have a strong fielder. We should have known what we were going to be getting from him when in Cole Hamels no-hitter, the final out, he goes all the way back to the wall thinking that's how deep the ball is going to be, and he has to dive forward to make the catch. He also he loved to bat flip. Like he would hit the ball and he would just like toss the bat, and he would do these things thinking that they're home runs, and they're like 20 feet into the outfield. Like Odubel Herrera, glad he's gone.
Yeah, I can't argue with you on that one. All right, so I think for me, I thought long and hard about this. I went back pretty far because there is one pitcher there's two pitchers in particular that really want me to rage. One is because he is just straight up a shitbag human being, and that's John Rocker. And we're not going to go any farther into it than John Rocker because he doesn't deserve that even being brought up. He doesn't deserve to have any recognition given to his name, but straight trash bag human being. The player based on performance that makes me the angriest, though, Mike Hampton, without a doubt. Mike Hampton, we lost for 2 entire seasons because he got hurt. And during those seasons, the Braves were paying him an obscene amount of money. So keep in mind, he was signed with the Braves from 2003 through 2008. He was making between $13 and $15.9 million a year. Today, that's not obscene. Back then, that was an obscene amount of money for a guy that was hurt all the time. Was his overall line with Atlanta bad? No, 35-24 is a winning record, but he had a 4.10 ERA. And it should be noted that he was the losing pitcher on record when Randy Johnson threw a perfect game against the Braves. That said, he also threw a complete game. He only gave up 2 runs, so whatever. But Mike Hampton is a guy that I wasn't wild about the trade we made to get him, and I was not particularly pleased with the efforts after we signed him. Never was a fan, and even when we dumped him off years later, we were still paying a huge chunk of salary. Terrible. What about you, Joe?
See, originally I thought this was like currently. I didn't realize this was lifetime. So I've got a couple here. Currently, it's Patrick Wisdom because the guy gets more opportunities than he deserves. And he's the streakiest hitter on the club. It's just god awful. Lifetime, I've got 2. Soriano, because he definitely didn't play up to his contract. And Alex Gonzalez, because you had an opportunity to put the Bartman mess, make it a blip in the radar, and you freaking botch a ground ball on the very next play. And the whole Bartman curse nonsense lives on. Like, dude, you had one job, and that was to put Bartman into the trash bin of history, and you couldn't do that on the very next play. And let that entire season just spiral out of control. My honorable mention is not a player, but it's whoever the hell managed the pitching staff for the Cubs when Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor were around.
Yeah. Yeah, you have every right to call that one out. All right, let's move it on to the hot list. Jason, who is your hot hitter this week?
I completely missed that part, and I do not have anybody picked this week, so I'm going to defer. I'm going to defer my hot list to you all this week.
Slacker. Joe, who's
Yeah.
your hot hitter this week?
The only hitter I have is the Moneyball, so we'll save that.
All right. My hot hitter for this week, I am going to go with Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers. He had 25 at bats, /360, 429, 960. He had 9 hits, 3 doubles, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a stolen base, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. That's my hot hitter. Joe, I'm pretty sure I can guess who Moneyball is.
Yeah. And stand up, all rise for Aaron Judge. Another monster week. 500, 630 on base, 1,200 slugging, and 1830 OPS. 8 runs on 10 hits, 3 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, 7 walks, and a stolen base. The guy is just on fire.
That's nuts.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. He's absolutely going to be your front runner right now for AL MVP.
He'll be the top vote getter at the All Star game between both
my
leagues.
God.
If he's not, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Since Jason's taking the week off, Joe, who is your hot pitcher of the week?
Tariq Skubal from the Tigers, 1-0 in 2 starts, 12 and 2/3 innings, 12 hits, 2 runs, 1 hit batter, 4 walks, but he had 16 strikeouts. The whip was a 1.26. Effective enough to do damage for the Tigers this week.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm going to go with a Padre this week. In 2 starts, Matt Waldron. He went 1-0, 12 and a third innings. He struck out 8, had a 1.46 ERA, a .57 whip, 2 runs, 5 hits, 2 walks. Good week for Waldron. And then, Joe, who's the adulting reliever of the week?
Adulting reliever is John Brebbia from the Chicago White Sox, of all places.
Jeez.
4 appearances this week, 4 and a third innings, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts, a .46 with a 133 batting average against. And I'm sure he had some of those innings against the Cubs, who had to scratch and claw to win those 2 games somehow. And they took 2 of 3 from the Red Sox in the weekend. So, a hat tip to them for that. He was impressive.
Yeah. All right. Hot teams this week. I'm going to go Philadelphia. I'm going to go Cincinnati, New York Yankees, Baltimore Orioles. I think those are going to be my hot teams of the week.
Cincinnati, they took 3 of 4 from the god-awful Cubs. Come on, man. Aim higher. Shit.
Yeah, and they're also 8-2 over the last 10. I mean, it's not like they've been slacking besides just beating up on the Cubs.
Yeah.
Anybody else you guys want to add, remove, whatever? I know Joe wants to remove the Reds on spite, but
no. Obviously the Phillies continue to be who they are and continue to be the leaders of the pack here. The Yankees, the Orioles, the Nats, because I said it.
Nah.
3-game winning streak against the quote unquote best team in the National League. I don't think so.
They're not
Can't keep them off the list.
What did the Nationals do last week besides beat the Braves? Did they actually do anything else?
I feel like that's all they had to do, really.
Yeah,
I mean, you put the Reds on the list for winning 3 of 4 on the Cubs.
Dude, the Nationals got swept by the Mets in the first half of the week.
The Mets are not as bad as the Braves are right now. Jeez.
I know. Yeah, and you know what? When you get swept, you don't get on the goddamn hot list. I don't care.
And you know what? Because the games were close, you feel like the White Sox, man, they should have won 4 this week. And they lost the Sunday game in 10 innings. So, I mean,
the White Sox might finally be starting to figure things out. Might.
Something like that. I know the Cubs need to figure some shit out. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's not looking so hot for the Cubbies lately. All right, and in this upcoming week of hell for Atlanta, in which I expect them to win 2 games, we've got 3 in Baltimore: Fried versus TBD tomorrow, Schwellenbach versus Irvin on Wednesday, Lopez versus Bradish on Thursday, and then they come home and will immediately face Tampa Bay without a travel day. Sale versus Lytle, Morton versus Pepio, and Fried versus Eflin on Sunday. So that week's not going to be looking good for us if I had to guess the way we've been playing lately. Maybe they get hot. I can only dream. The Orioles, when they're done with Atlanta, will welcome the Phillies to town this weekend. Rodriguez versus Suarez on Friday, Burns versus Walker Saturday, and TBD versus Wheeler Sunday. That will be what we have for Baltimore.
Well, I know which game the Orioles will at least win.
The one thing.
Burns versus Walker. Good Lord.
Good Lord. The one thing you have to factor in with the Rays is that they're playing either at home or in Baltimore tonight, and then they're playing the Cubs tomorrow. So they're not having a travel day either.
Yeah, and I know they're playing awful right now, but I have no confidence right now until the bats decide to wake up. Bats not named Marcelo.
I don't blame you. I'm in the same company as you are, so
yeah. So speaking of the Rays and the Cubs, Tyone versus Eflin tomorrow, Assad versus Saval, and Steele versus Bradley. And then the Cubbies come home to face the Cardinals this weekend. Brown versus Gibson, Imananga versus Puente, Tyone versus Mikolas. So that should be I know, Joe, you're always so eager for those Cardinal series. I hope you guys beat them up and get out of the slump.
Hey, something's got to give, man. And hopefully, for the love of God, they're not one-run games. Interesting, some Cubs notes real quick. They have played 26 one-run games going into tomorrow.
That's nuts.
And they are 12-14 in those games.
Stop
me if you've heard me complain about one-run games in the Cubs before, because you have for a couple of years now. 12-14 already.
I think you're justified at this point, dude. I really do.
And what the heck? Nico has a freaking fracture in his hand, and you're not putting him on the IL? Like, I don't care if he can play tomorrow. I truly don't. You had him pinch run on Saturday with a swollen right hand, or I might have been the left hand, but you have him pinch run with a swollen hand, and then he takes ground balls on Sunday, like in practice, and it's like, what are we doing? Just shut the guy down for 10 days. Who the hell cares?
Yeah. Fractures aren't going to get better by using the hand over and over again.
Well, it's one of those things where counsel is like, look, the doctors say it can't get any worse. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, well, they could be wrong. And do you really want to risk that with Nico Horner? I mean, it's one thing if you want to risk that with Nick Madrigal, but Nico Horner, seriously?
Yeah.
You're going to need him. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, don't screw up one of the faces of the franchise.
I don't understand this management of injuries. It makes no sense to me. And the Cubs are notorious for this crap.
All right, moving it on to the Phillies. They are on the road all week, playing the AL East teams. 3 at Boston starting tomorrow. Wheeler versus Crawford, Sanchez versus Pivetta, Nola versus Houck. And then, as I mentioned, the Baltimore series this weekend. Jason, this is going to be a tougher week, I think, finally. I know the Red Sox are not all that, but they are hovering around 500 right now, and they've got some solid pitching. So, but that Baltimore series, I think we're gonna see a lot about the Phillies and how they do in Baltimore this weekend.
You say finally, like they didn't just sweep the NL Central leading Brewers last week.
Yeah, they did. That was one team, and then they had the Mets.
And I think this week, looking at the matchups, thinking about where they're playing, I can see it being anywhere from a 4-2 week to a 2-4 week. A lot of it depends on, one, how did they adjust after coming back from London? because they did have the travel day between end of game yesterday and they had today. They're going straight to Boston. So I think the fact that they have Wheeler going tomorrow should be okay. But Wheeler has struggled against the Red Sox in his history with the Phils. I think they can take.
He hasn't pitched at Fenway, if I'm correct. If I saw
Correct.
that. So,
Correct. He's only faced the Red Sox in Philly.
Mhm.
I think facing Cutter Crawford is definitely going to be a test for the offense.
He's good, man. I was really impressed when I
Yeah.
watched him against Atlanta.
So I think you're probably going to see a lower scoring game tomorrow. Phils can take 2 or 3 from them, and then the Orioles. I'm writing off the Burns versus Walker matchup as a loss already. But you then have Ranger and Wheeler going, so I think they can win those games. A lot of it's going to come down to, I think, the bullpens.
Mhm.
So, yeah. I would be happy with the split on the week, like a 3-3 week. I think I would be happy with that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I definitely see it as more closer to a 4-2 if it's me, just as an outside observer. I just think they're on too much of a roll right now.
Yeah.
I do agree with you that the Burns Walker matchup is going to be probably pretty ugly. Although it should be noted that the Orioles don't start or play Adley when Burns is on the mound, at least the last couple of starts.
Mm.
So they're not getting his production offensively.
True.
Which is something I just happened to notice today. He's not. Burns is on the mound tonight, and Adley's not playing. So that's a pattern. So that might benefit the Phils.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we were still doing our pick 'em, I'd say Phillies. I'm thinking probably 2-1, 1-2 if I had to guess. I think I'm leaning more towards a 3-3 week, like you were thinking in the middle of your range there, Jason.
Yeah.
All right, so that is that for this week. Do you guys have anything else?
No.
Excellent. So so for our fans, you go to a game, please feel free, send us stuff. We would love to show the pictures. Again, we'll probably do it about once a month, along with when we're doing our another Ask the Fans night. So I'd like to keep that going. So send us those pictures, guys. All right, audio recordings available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. We're live on YouTube, Facebook Live, as well as Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. Twitter's at DDAB_podcast. All 4 of us are on as well, at Pyrolord314 for me, at JRicker300 for Jason, at JoltonJoe35 for Joe, and at Dipneron for Ron. We're presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by Baron Barbershop in Mannheim. Check out our LinkedIn page, which is linked up on our Facebook page for links to all of our stuff. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.